Hi everyone, my name's Katie. Today I decided to do my article on physical aggression in children and adolescents with autism spectrum disorder, so let's get started. So the purpose of this article is to review a study done in regards to prevalence and correlation of physical aggression and with autism spectrum disorder. So in this article, the authors will go through different sections focusing in on prevalence of aggression, predictors, and correlation, and other problems that might coexist with aggression. And I found this article in the Research in Autism Spectrum Disorder Journal. I chose to focus on physical aggression when searching for an article because it's something I have seen in a lot of kids at my line of work. There are also many levels of physical aggression. There's moderate to severe, so I was intrigued to read this article and kind of learn more about the behaviors. So physical aggression can be anything from hitting someone with an object to biting, kicking, punching. The list can go on. Many different things. It seems to be pretty prevalent among children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and usually physical aggression has extremely negative effect on both the child and others involved in the child's life. So prevalence of aggression. Despite the clinical significance of aggression, there has been little research directly examining the scope of the problem in children and adolescents with autism spectrum disorder. So in this section, the author kind of goes through the few studies that they've chosen in regards to prevalence of aggression. So in the 2008 study by Matson and Rivet, 15 to 18% of 298 adults participated in aggression towards other people. As you can see, that's has to do with adults, but he kind of just chose different ones that pinpointed aggression and the prevalent nature of it. So in the 2006 study, they found that out of 487 children, 14.3 of them attacked others at a higher degree, so it's a little more severe. And then a 2011 study they involved 121 children, and it's more specific when breaking down what aggression is kind of defined as. So they broke it down to pushing and shoving, then forcefully hitting others with objects, hitting people forcefully, and biting. So it's just a little more specific when breaking down the aggression side of that. In the 2011 study, showed that 56% of 1,380 children with autism spectrum disorder had some degree of current physical aggression towards their caregivers, while 68% of those children had previous history of physical aggression towards their caregivers. There are a few large studies done in regard to predictors of aggression among people and kids with ASD. So more studies probably should be done focusing in on children and adolescents. In a 2011 study, predictors of aggression were examined in a sample of children with autism spectrum disorder. So as expected, younger age was associated with an increased likelihood of aggression. So in this study that I just mentioned, IQ, language, parents' education weren't significant predictors, although there were some that were concurrent predictors to physical aggression, which includes autism spectrum disorder symptom severity, so how severe their symptoms might be, self-injurious behavior, resistance to change. So it's important to review the potential co-occurring symptoms that may go along with physical aggression, which we will discuss next. So some coexisting problems they mentioned specifically in this article were sleeping issues, gastrointestinal issues, which from experience a lot of my clients have those issues, sensory issues, and self-injury. So in this section, the author discusses how other occurring problems may be relevant to aggression in an individual, and they go through different issues discussed, like I just mentioned, and brings up previous studies on each about how these issues can coexist with aggression. So now into the current study. Mazurek and the other authors implemented for this article, this study, aggression will kind of be defined as biting, hitting, or any other physical harm done to another person. As there aren't many recent studies done on prevalence and co-occurring symptoms of aggression in young children or adolescents, the authors try to focus in on these factors in this current study. So they will look at the prevalence among children and adolescents with ASD. They will also study the demographic and functional symptomatic factors of children with aggression versus children without aggression. So participants in this study, there were 1,584 children and adolescents with ASD enrolled in Autism Treatment Network, which is a multi-site network with 17 autism centers throughout the U.S. and Canada. The age range in this study was from 2 years old to 17 years old, and most of the majority of the participants were white and male. So surveys, questionnaires, and assessments were completed in order to determine if the participants have any sleep disturbance issues, sensory problems, communication and social functioning issues, gastrointestinal problems, SIB, and how they're functioning cognitively. So their parents filled out surveys or questionnaires, or there were assessments done on them to determine all these different factors that go into play. So group comparisons among children with and without physical aggression were also measured. And for this analysis, a forward stepwise logistic regression approach was used to determine which combination of variables led to the most parsimonious prediction model. So variables that did not contribute to the prediction of aggression at this level were removed from the final model in this study. So some of the results, out of the total number of participants, 53.7 were currently showing physical aggression, 53.7%. Since the age range was also so wide, the age difference was a factor between the groups. So they also did comparison with that, and results showed that the younger children were more aggressive than the older adolescents. And demographics didn't seem to have any correlation with aggression, but education level of parents showed that the higher level of education, the more likely the lower rate of the aggressive behavior for the child, and the lower level of education for parents, the child would be more likely to have a high rate of aggressive behavior. So on the next slide, we will go over the prevalence results among all the subgroups measured in this study. So I took this table from the article. So this table shows the prevalence of aggression across the subgroups. So as you can see, the total sample, 1,584, and it shows in this area right here, under prevalence of aggression within the group, the percentage. So 54.3% of the males were more prevalent, to be aggressive within this group. They go through race, caregiver education level, which we just discussed, no college, that has a higher percentage than postgraduate or bachelor's degree. If the child is participating in self-injurious behavior, they're more likely to be aggressive in other ways, and verbal, if they're participating in verbal, if they're able to talk, they're more likely. Well, that one's kind of close. So 55.7% compared to 51.9%. Gastrointestinal problems, that was very interesting, because that if they had gastrointestinal issues, they'd be more likely to. It was related to aggression, so they're more likely to be physically aggressive if these issues show up. So the current results indicate that physical aggression is prevalent among children and adolescents with autism spectrum disorder, with cross-sectional prevalence rate of 53.7 across the entire sample, which back up another study that have prevalence rates of 56%. So we also see that age plays a role in physical aggression, which is also consistent with past research done. So it kind of proves that this study was consistent with other studies done. It was just more in depth. So the author states that future research needs to focus on additional family and community variables as possible predictors and the factors that may maintain their aggression. So some questions I had, and just kind of want to leave them as open-ended for you guys to answer, What are some other possible co-occurring problems you may see in a child with ASD? Why do you think physical aggression is so much more prevalent among younger children? Personally, I think like younger children have a more difficult time communicating than older children. Not in every case, but that could play into that. What other factors or possible predictors should be studied in the future? Like what other than sleep, gastrointestinal issues, what other issues should be measured? And should any of the current coexisting problems discussed in this study be investigated further, like have a study of its own, just focusing on gastrointestinal problems correlating with aggression? And if you think so, why? So thanks for listening. Have a great day, and I can't wait to see your responses.